What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing a quick update video for my Stormclaw Druid build for Season 2 in Diablo 4. And we're going to be doing it on the Mobalytics page because it's just going to be a little bit easier for me to kind of go through things a little fast so you guys can get a chance to look at them on your own. Now, the link to this page will be in the description, as well as a link to me completing a Tier 100 dungeon with a build that was not as optimized as this. And there will be a link to the previous video that goes a little bit more in depth as to what stats you want on the gear, things like that. But without getting too far in the weeds, I would like to say a big thank you to you guys for all the support you've shown and a lot of the comments that you guys have left on my video. I really appreciate it, especially as a new content creator. And man, it makes a heck of a difference, and it makes me really excited to get up and make these videos for you. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're right here on the Mobalytics page, and the first thing I want to cover is the skills. Nothing has changed in terms of the skills that you're going to be using on your bar. So we have Claw, Hurricane, Bulwark, Cyclone, Ravens, and Petrify. And I've pretty much been using Petrify for everything now. I don't even touch Cataclysm anymore. And then for Claw, we 5 points in Claw, and then we go up it to the Wild Claw passive. Nothing different there. I still like to have my 2 points in Earth Spike and then Enhanced Earth Spike. I see a big difference in my ability to not just clear waves of monsters safely, but the amount of stagger I put on bosses and the speed at which I put it on them. So I've been able to get a lot more staggers out of bosses, and I've been a lot safer clearing packs of mobs because that stun really happens a lot. Because we're attacking so fast, I see that stun proc so much, and I really enjoy having that 2 points there. So Storm Strike, again, 5 points, followed up into the Fierce Storm Strike for the vulnerability. Still have Predatory Instinct. The only thing we did change here under the core skill passives was we removed Digigrade Gate, as I felt like those 3 points could go somewhere else for a much better build. And 9% movement speed wasn't really giving me anything too much. Then under defensive, we have 1 point Bulwark into preserving Earthen Bulwark so we can constantly keep up Fortify reliably, because it's hard to do that on a werewolf build without Direwolf. And then Ancestral Fortitude. Now, we typically would have 3 points into this, but I had my resistances capped. If you don't, go 3 points into this until you can cap them out without it. Then I took the points out of it and I put them into Vigilance, as well as 1 point from Digigrade Gate into Vigilance. So we have a 15% damage reduction for 6 seconds while using a defensive skill. And because we're constantly using Bulwark, because this works off Nature's Fury, we're always having 15% damage reduction. So a nice little change to the build here. And then we still have 1 point in Ravens, and then 1 point in the Enhanced Ravens passive for that increased 8% critical strike chance. Then for Wrath, we have Neurotoxin, Envenom, and Toxic Claws. Nothing changed there. And same Elemental Exposure, Charged Atmosphere, 3 in Bad Omen, and 3 in Electric Shock. I just really like those passives a lot. Now, something that did change was we removed points from Hurricane. We removed 4 points from Hurricane because I didn't feel like the damage was necessary. And we could make up that damage elsewhere in a much greater way. So we have 1 point in Hurricane, 1 point in Enhanced Hurricane, and then Savage Hurricane for the damage reduction. Then obviously in our ultimate here, we have Petrify, and then Prime Petrify for the increased duration. Now, this is what we kind of changed here. As well as changing Vigilance, we went 1 point Quick Shift, then 3 points Heightened Senses for that 12% damage reduction against elites. So we know elites, bosses, they're the ones killing us. So having that 12% damage reduction on top of the 15%, man, it just feels so much tankier. And we don't really lose any damage because we have 3 points in Defiance for the multiplicative 12% damage. We did go 1 point in Natural Disaster, and then we put 3 points in Resonance to give us 6% more multiplicative damage. And also, because we're using Earthen Bulwark so much, we do get procs off of Resonance for that 18% multiplicative damage to some of our Stormclaw hits. So that is how I managed to make up the damage from Hurricane in a better way, as well as add some tankiness to this build that it didn't have previously, even though it was pretty tanky. And then Nature's Fury, the big cornerstone to this build. Then we have Tempest Roar here for our helmet, Mad Wolf's Glee for our chest. Nothing's changed. I did change the gloves here, so I removed the exploiter aspect off of my boots, and I put symbiotic onto my boots, and then I put conceited on my gloves. Now, conceited is just a nice aspect that gives us that multiplicative damage bonus while we have a barrier, which we always do, but you can also swap it out with Nature's Balance to give you that increased critical strike chance with storm skills after you use an earth skill. So you can play around with the glove aspect, but I like the multiplicative damage personally. Then for pants, we're going with Disobedience just to reach armor cap when we're doing high tier dungeons and bossing. And then, like I said, on the boots, we got Symbiotic. Then the only unique you need to get this build off the ground, and this is for new people coming into this video, is the Greater Staff of the Crone. As soon as you get that staff, you'll immediately see a big damage boost when you add certain vampiric powers to your build, and then you'll be able to farm those high tier bosses so you can get the Mad Wolf's Glee and you can get the Tempest Roar pretty easily. But you need the Greater Staff of the Crone, and this will set it all off perfectly. And then for the amulet, we still have rapid aspect for that increased attack speed. Then the MVP here aspect, overcharged aspect. This aspect is insanely good, does a ton of damage, has a ton of damage dealt to monsters surrounding the enemy you're attacking, and honestly is probably the best aspect I found to have on this build in terms of overall damage. I will say, though, there is a downside here that this aspect, for some reason, I think is bugged, meaning that when you take this aspect off of, say, like a low tier piece of gear, whatever that power level was on that gear applies to the damage bonus, and that damage bonus does not, unfortunately, change when you put it on a higher power level piece of gear. So in order to get a perfect roll on this aspect, you're going to have to find it on a high power level piece of gear, and you're going to have to find it rolled at an increased chance, because I get more 10%, 11%, 12%, and I rarely see those high 18, 19, and 20% chance to proc. So hopefully you guys can get that. I run this aspect all the time. I love it. And you'll still see a nice significant damage difference when you get it from your collections instead of from a piece of gear. So it's a very, very great aspect for this build. And then Edge Masters, our last aspect, just for, again, another bucket of multiplicative damage here, and we always have max primary resource because we're always using basic skills and we don't cast any core skills. And then for our gems, we're using topazes still for the basic skill damage. We're using our sapphires for the reduction while fortified, and then diamonds for the resistances. Now, you can honestly, if you can cap your resistances without the need of your diamonds, you can put some armor, plus armor on with skulls, but that's just some things you can change if you get lucky enough to get some nice resistance rolls. And then for our vampiric powers, nothing really has changed. We have Hectic for the cooldown, Ravenous for the attack speed, which is insane, almost broken, and then Metamorphosis for that awesome evade. And by the way, another great thing about Metamorphosis, you can evade while stunned. This is an insanely good vampiric power. And then Undying just to keep our health up to max. And then Moonrise because we want that massive boost to our basic skill damage and increased attack speed. Now for bossing, I would take out Metamorphosis and I would use Prey on the Weak for that multiplicative damage bonus here to vulnerable enemies. However, you can also change that to Sanguine Brace because it gives you an 8% critical strike chance at max fortify, which we'll always be at because we're spamming Bulwark. So for our first Paragon board, nothing has changed. It's the same path as you guys can see here. We'll go ahead and zoom in some. And we're just trying to unlock that first glyph slot and put in whatever it works for you first. I used Fulminate and then get the dexterity for it to unlock it. Then we're following it up. We're grabbing some damage here on the rare node, and then we're grabbing the resist here, and then we're just exiting that Paragon board. Then we're going into constricting tendrils, and you'll see a noticeable difference here. I did go ahead and take out the points that led to constricting tendrils. Again, monsters were dying incredibly fast, and I did not feel like it was necessary to have that on any longer. And I have other sources of immobilize, and honestly, I didn't need an extra one. And the poisoning based, poisoning off of base damage didn't really do much for me. So I took points out of here. However, I did keep the points into superiority for that damage to crowd control enemies. So that's how the constricting tendril board looks, and then the rare glype is still the same exploit. Then the Lust for Carnage board is exactly the same, moved in, kept the one point over here for the rare node to increase our attack speed, and this is at 5% now because we have the all stats for it. And then just naturally follow the path over here to the glyph for Undaunted, so we get that damage reduction while fortified, but also that big chunk of damage. And again, we're keeping our fortify at max all the time, even during the very beginning of a boss fight, because we can spam Bulwark. Then I followed that up and out of this board into Height and Malice. And Height and Malice has not really changed either. We went over this way to pick up Height and Malice. And I'll let you guys check this out. Like I said, all the links will be in the description. And then we just followed the path all the way up here. And then right here, I had points left over after I finished the entire set of boards. So my bonus points I had left went into this rare node here, Overturn, for that increased damage to poison enemies as well as elite damage. And then I did pick up a point, an extra point here for that 8%. But my primary focus at first was just kind of moving into the glyph slot so we could put in our werewolf. Now, this is bugged out a little bit. It says 30 of 40, but we do have 40 points of willpower. We have 10 here. Then we have 10 from the rare node here, 10 from this rare node, and then 10 right here. So this is just bugged out, but this has not changed except for this little bit of bonus damage here. Then into Thunderstruck, I had a really nice viewer say, hey, you could go left instead of right, or I should say left instead of up. And that really saved me some points here, so thank you to you. So we went up here and then over to the glyph slot for our territorial glyph. And then we had bonus points after we exited the board. So we still kept all of this into Deluge all the way up to grab our legendary node Thunderstruck because we want that bonus off of our close damage. And then we took extra points up here for this 15% critical strike chance and vulnerability damage. And then the last part here, and another big change. So we did rotate the board around so we could get to the glyph slot a little easier, but also access this set of nodes here. We did rotate it around, like I said. We went left out of Thunderstruck, and then we ended up rotating the Ancestral Guidance board so that way we could come straight down here, pick up this Dexterity node, because originally we were coming from this node. Now we're coming from this node, going here, picking up Dexterity, and then moving over some resistances, Dexterity into the glyph slot so we can pick up Spirit for the critical strike damage. And then we went up and grabbed up the Dexterity to unlock it. But the change was we then continued up and we grabbed a massive, massive set of nodes here that I completely forgot about, to be honest, until I started really playing around here in Mobalytics. But picked up 17.5% basic skill damage with this magic node, a whopping 35% basic skill damage here, and then another 17.5%, guys. So this set of nodes I completely forgot about because it's been so long since I made a build using basic skills. Yeah, tons of damage we left off the board with the last set of Paragon boards. And honestly, this is going to make a huge difference in how fast we kill things. So But I hope those changes make this build that much more enjoyable for you guys. Like I said previously, this build is very friendly with a low life bulwark. In fact, I think it might even break the build if you do low life with it. And tons of damage, lots of clearing with this build. It's very fast, very enjoyable. And like I said, I'll be posting the links to the previous build video down in the description, as well as my tier 100 clear. But that's really it for the video, guys. I hope this video helps you out, kind of streamline your Paragon boards. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And that's all for now. I'm going to go get back to playing some Diablo 4. Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.